Right, okay then. Okay. Apparently you started doing burpees.
We love them.
Do you like burpees? They're really consider like feedback. Feedback's a gift. Consider feedback and burpees are a gift, right? If I ever write a book on coaching, this will be the underpinning. Anyway, so today we'll hear from Nikki first, but
I know.
I want to talk a little bit about one-to-one coaching, which is a fundamental underpinning strand of what we're doing. CFCs, and I don't mean chlorofluorocarbons in the back of your fridge, and also tapas. But I'll come on to that. But firstly, before I come on to those little things that I use, Nikki, how's it going? How do you think it's going?
I think it's going good, actually. I've seen an improvement in the team. So, yeah, I mean, they know. I speak to them all the time and I tell them how we're doing. And, yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen them come a long way already, especially the ones that have been coming consistently. There's been a big change, I think. I don't know. I hope you guys feel better about your stroke and understand more of what's required and what we need to be doing and where we need to be going.
So give us some context. When you say good, just give us a couple of things that you've seen some definite improvements in.
Fitness. And as well as the use of the stroke, I think everyone's kind of thinking about things a little bit more, you know, rather than just getting into the boat. I think people are starting to think a little bit more about what we should be doing when we're hitting the catch, when we're going through the drive phase, when to apply the power, things like that. I just think people are becoming a little bit more technically inclined.
Okay.
And, you know, again, with the, and just kind of starting to think about the speed of the boat rather than the pace and their different intensity levels. And when I'm asking for 80%, we go 80%. If I'm asking for 90%, there's a gear change.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. People are actually thinking a little bit more of what they're doing. So, and again, like I say, fitness has definitely come up. I think all of us can feel that in the boat too.
Okay. Debbie, let me pick on you for a minute. So, well, I'm going to do that, aren't I? So, okay, fitness, but this whole idea of knowing when you are in a race, knowing what you're doing, well, I call it thinking on purpose, is a borrowed term of a good friend of mine who's a home office trainer. Thinking on purpose, knowing where you are, rather than just sitting in a boat. I'm not saying you do this necessarily. Head down, arse up, hope for the best, dig into the water hard, and sooner or later the finish comes. So, well, when Nikki talks about sort of this, I'll paraphrase it into thinking on purpose. What does that mean to you about thinking your way down a race course, if I called it that? What does that translate like to you? Nothing.
I think now, and I agree with Nikki, that we're a bit more technical minded. We can break it down a bit more. We're thinking about the stroke rather than just plomping away. We're going through the phases and thinking about what we're doing when we're entering. I just think it makes a lot more sense. We kind of know what we're doing. The technical side of it really does mean something while we're actually paddling.
I mean, the technical aspects of the stroke are absolutely fundamental. Yeah. Catherine, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that gelling as a team as well. Right. I think the sort of and little things like where you're putting your head and watching during, like, as you say, during a race, during paddling, and just the focus. I think that's changed with us as well as we're developing.
Well, I mean, I'll assure you, as far as I can assure you, we'll never ask you to do anything that we haven't thought about, we haven't discussed, and doesn't make sense. And if, like I say, if it doesn't drive the boat or assist in driving the boat faster forward, more efficiently, more effectively, then the first question is why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So it really is, because there's not much time. I mean, you think there's 2 minutes or just over 2 minutes, hopefully, in the 500 meters. That's not a lot of time to make your mark on the world stage. So every stroke counts. Okay. just Tom, tell us a bit about this whole idea. What you think your take on blending?
My take on blending.
Yeah. Well, so when we talk about blending,
well, I'm semi-guessing, but I'd assume it's putting together different sizes, different strengths, different heights.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the optimum stroke for everyone.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's certainly
ergonomics.
Ergonomics, absolutely part of it. Rachel, is there any more to blending than that? I mean, that's a great foundation.
No, I think I agree with all that.
Would you add? Would you hazard a guess? Would you add anything else?
I hate talking on these things, so no.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? So blending. Well, when we talk about blending, yeah, most definitely. Well, everything Tom says and a little bit more as well. But why is it? Why do we spend and will spend so much time? And once we get more people coming more regularly, or we get the regular contingent, working out whether Tom is better here, better there, the seats he's likely to be better in. If he prefers to sit on one side, can he paddle the other side? All this sort of stuff.
So can you hear me, Tim? Am I still muted?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me, yeah? Great. So I think it's also about making sure that all the paddles go in the water at the same time and they all come out of the water at the same time. And of course, that also depends on how big you are. So, you don't want someone who is very tall sitting at the back of the boat, because they're not going to be very comfortable there. They're probably going to have long legs, and it's not very wide at the back and whatever. And you also and taller people generally have a bigger reach. So you don't want to be putting someone who has a big reach behind someone who has a small reach, because they could actually be bumping into their back. So that's, for me, that's the blending. It's not only, paddles in the water at the same time, paddles out, but, you have to take into consideration people's heights, people's sizes, etc., when you're putting them in the appropriate place in the boat.
Really is critically important. I mean, give me some ideas of sort of, you've mentioned some distractions you could have in a boat. For example, the obvious physical things. If you've got big, tall people, well, yeah, they've got to go somewhere in the boat if they earn the place in the boat. So excluding them is not necessarily an option. But some of the distractions you could, you could have ineffective paddling out of time, out of phase, all this sort of stuff. But what do you actually, as the paddler, just talk about paddlers for a minute, what do you want to be concentrating on when you're paddling in any given race?
You want to be concentrating on paddling.
That's it. You're only concentrating on your workspace, and your workspace, wherever you happen to be sitting, is your catch point through to your exit point. And how much force do you need to be delivering onto that, the power face of the paddle between the entry and the exit? How much force? Paul, how much force do you need to be delivering?
What you're saying about different stages through the stroke, or it's the maximum force you can give? You
need to be delivering your absolute maximum force at every stage of the race. So you need to minimize the distractions, or we need to minimize the distractions for you. So if, for example, I'm sitting next to Tom, and Tom has got the perfect stroke, as I'm sure he has, and I'm sitting next to Tom, say, for example, you can't find anybody else, and I end up in the boat, and I'm coming across and elbowing him, and always concerned about me impeding on his space, and he's going to be spending some of his time, effort, or energy worrying about me. So that's the purpose of getting the blending sorted out and working out. And what will hopefully happen is, for any given paddler, any given athlete, will know optimally where they need to be, where they work best, where they work least. And there are occasionally, very occasionally, sometimes more than occasionally, some of our bigger paddlers who are less flexible. And people may not, I don't know, say for example, that's me. I'm an inflexible paddler, and I do a bit of rotating, but very little. And people very dislike sitting behind me because you can't get out front, you can't get round me, you can't get anything, and I'm actually sort of cramping your style at the very least. Now, part of the coaching process is to try and free up that person, but also if we have those sort of issues, getting them out in the open. But much the same as, this is what I'm talking about, critical friends. Let's leap into that a little bit. I'm sure you've all been in boats in the past where you've got people who are less than efficient, less than optimally efficient, and every now and again it pees people off and they end up with a bit of a bust up in the boat and a bit of recriminations and that sort of stuff. Yeah, have we all been in that sort of situation? I'm sure we have. If you hadn't, I'll be surprised, because when you think about it, dragon boating is putting a load of people in close formation inside people's intimate space. And it always surprises me, even at corporate level, there's not more disagreements in dragon boats. Yeah, it really is. So when you think about it, it's sort of, it's so easy to piss people off, frankly, when in close proximity, and we don't tend to do it. Perhaps they've got a shared interest in getting boats moving. So, but it is desirable. If I'm, say, sitting next to Paul or anybody, and my stroke is less than efficient, then I need to know about it, don't I? I need to know about it, and I might have mentioned this. I remember having a bit of a, not a meltdown, but I really got annoyed at a paddler one year. We were at the World Championships, in fact, and we were in the pens, and we were talking to somebody about a particular part of their technique, and I can't remember how it came up, but it came up, and they said, somebody said to them about them doing something like that, and they said, yeah, I know. And I said to them, you know? What do you mean, you know? I mean, what's the point of knowing about it if you've gone through all this training and preparation, and all you're saying to me is, yes, I know that's a problem with my paddling. What have you actually done about it? So it's the way it was put across in terms of just highlighting an issue. So, oh yeah, I know, I always do that. But if you know you always do it, why have you done something about it? So a mechanism to try and to make it a bit more sensible, to make it a bit more understandable, is we want to get the situation, we're going to introduce a one-to-one program. So let me pick on Heidi May for a minute, because I know you started doing this already. So what are you working on in your particular stroke or technique?
A couple of things. I'm really focusing on not trying to derotate. I tend to pull far back and over derotate. So I'm trying to keep over my stroke, and I'm constantly thinking about getting that 45-degree angle and not inverting. Those are my two big focuses at the moment.
When you say inverting, you mean rolling, yeah?
I don't know, Nikki, what do I do? You've seen it. I think sometimes my hand is not necessarily over, and
yeah, I mean, it's a whole new thing, isn't it, almost to be going for that 45-degree angle, I think, for most people in the boat. So in general, that is a big focus for me with everyone. So yeah, that is that. It's just sometimes you do get that catch, and then you've got it once, twice,
and then it
maybe 5 times, and then all of a sudden it goes again. Yeah.
And I've got a longer paddle as well, so I'm still, I mean, I've had it for weeks now, but yeah, I'm still finding the way. And I know when I do it, because I plop. When I have a silent entry, I feel it's right, but then I can plop. So it's those two things really that I keep an eye on.
But what will happen is, me as an athlete, as a paddler, I may have 12 things I need to be working on. You know, it's an ongoing process, isn't it? But Nikki, as the coach, is not going to be giving me 12 things to think about. She's going to be giving me 2 or 3 things to think about, and then we're going to work on that. And it really is important. How important do you think it is that everyone else is aware, or certainly your regular seat partner is aware of your particular, well, you call them action points, development points, whatever you want to call them, but whatever they are, the things you need to specifically focus on in amongst the boat blend. So it's the individual things. So why is it important for your seat partner to know your particular, to call them development points? Why is that? Is it important, or is it a silent contract between you and Nikki?
No, it's very important, because they're the person that's sitting next to you. They're the person that is going to see what you're doing, in addition to basically the drummer and the steers at the back. But we don't always have a really good view. It depends on, you know, the size of the boat. It's easier if it's a mini boat, then we can see a lot more But, you know, as a drummer, I can't really see what's going on at the back of the boat. And I'm sure for the steers, she can't really, or he can't really see what's going on at the front of the boat.
So you could look at, absolutely, you could look upon it as, you could say there's no place to hide, or you could say every piece of constructive, positive criticism is an opportunity to improve. And that's really where we want to go with it. I'm sure you've all been in a boat where there's somebody who's had a bad day and they say, right, yeah, do this, do that, and all this. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is creating a culture in a boat of a bunch of friends who are there to improve each other and help each other and give people timely, friendly, positive reminders when they need it. And typical, it might be 3/4 of the way down the 500 meters where people sometimes have a tendency to not take it easy, but you know, they're preparing for the end, so they naturally conserve. People do, they're human beings. Just reminding people, you know, and if, for example, I don't know, say somebody notices at the corner of the eye that Heidi May or me or anybody else is coming a little bit vertical, or they're letting the blade slip, just reminding them of that. I'll go as far, yeah.
I mean, it's good, you know, I was at the front of the boat this week. We were doing the 70, 80, 90, at, you know, at 60 strokes. And a couple of times as I switched gears, my pace went up. But I had Chrissy at my side and Chrissy just shouted pace. And that, you know, that's how it should be. You know, and then I clocked it and pulled it back and we were, you know, we caught it in time. But there has to be that, I think there has to be that communication, but something for me that's important is that there's not too many voices on the boat, which we haven't got. I'm not saying this about our team, but I think it's, I can relate an experience on my own boat this week. There's somebody who feels it's their place to correct everybody, and that gets irritating because it's not a contract that's being kind of agreed, where they're all agreeing that we're open to receive that. And then it, you know, gets to the stage where everybody's calling power now or whatever, and then it's just too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen.
There's a couple of things there that thank you for bringing those up. They're really worth talking about. From a previous life in the military, if you think about an ambush, there's either at an ambush situation, you're either a shooter or you're a shouter. Most people at ambushes are shooting. A few people are shouting. You don't say, "Oh," you know, you need to know what your role is. And what I've done in the past, and it's tended to work, then certain people do the calls. In the main, we tend to have the helm steerer, especially on the 2K, focusing on the steering. Doesn't always work, doesn't matter. But I like to just narrow it down. Yeah, you focus on the paddling, the strokes focus on stroke paddling, number 7s do their bit. You know what your particular job is. So the person who has more opportunity, not always, in terms of reading the race, is the drummer. It has to be an agreement between us. And for example, we may have a situation where people, individual people, will make a certain call at a certain time. It might just be a focus on legs or whatever. But the point is we'd agree that as you go along. But it's not, one, it's not a free for all. And two, it's not random. I mean, you've been on in race boats with Michelle. Michelle will have a repertoire of words, calls that she uses, that she's thought about, and all good quality drummers, coxes will do the same. It won't be some random load of, won't be something blurted out, right? But it feels right in the moment. It's something that works, and it's the minimum amount of effort and energy put into it to get the desired outcome. Yeah, that's what it is. So you get to know that when Michelle calls for this, you deliver this. That's why, I mean, things like a power 10. Okay, fine. It doesn't mean a great deal to me. I want something a bit more specific than that. I want somebody on instructions say, you know, we're coming out of a turn, we're doing a rolling race start, 2, 1, go. And I know exactly what I'm doing for the next 20, 15 strokes. And when we're going into transition, I'm listening for this, even though I can count, when I'm under pressure, that's what I'm expecting. So you don't say halfway down a 500 meters, there's certain calls you make at certain times and certain calls that the drummer, cox or helm or others will make when they're needed. So you wouldn't say I'm going to have a push at 250 meters because I may not need it. What I may need to do at 250 meters is actually is conserve a little bit because I'm alongside a boat. I know it's got a, say, Ukrainian boat or something. I know they've got a fast finish. So if I'm keeping pace with them at 250 meters, I'm going to stay pace with them. And when they go, we're going to go. You see what I mean? So there's a bit of tactics as well. So there's calls you make at a specific time obviously starts coming out of turns, going into turns, and other tactical calls, but they're not random. They're from a repertoire, and they're, you know, we decide who it's going to be. But one of the things that annoys me more than anything else is having people randomly deciding, well, oh, you know, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, because all they're doing is talking to himself. And as a stroke paddler, Heidi May, how much do you actually know what's going on at the back of the boat?
Well, I haven't a clue yet, other than I can feel if there's a push, if I'm being pushed, I can feel it and I can hear calls sometimes, but not always, because sometimes it's just not loud enough.
But that's probably, if you're being pushed, that's probably going to be from C2, 3, maybe 4. But it's going to be a fairly localized thing most of the time. Most of the time, it tends to be people who are over exuberant and sort of. But yeah, that sort of stuff will iron out. But you often get, often get stroke paddlers who, for some reason, because it's the is it the best place to be? I don't know, really. Do you need to be the most technical paddler? That's the perception, isn't it? You know, all the good paddlers down the front and all the rubbish paddlers down the back. We covered that previously, that nonsense or that myth. But I'm very keen on, you know, not swapping around too much. But you need to get, if you're going to be a stroke paddler or anyone, you need to spend some time in the back of the boat as well. And that's why I have this 1, 2, 3 and 7 side of things, because the way the water performs around the boat is different. When you think about it, the faster the boat, if you think about a wave pattern going through a boat, the faster the boat, the bigger the bow wave, potentially the bigger the dip in the middle. So the freeboard, i.e. the distance between the water, the trough of the water and the gunnel is going to be higher. And then it will come up, and depending how fast the boat is, hopefully you've got the wave pattern going all the way through the boat. Okay. So you need to be paddling the same water in a slightly different way. So rather than paddling a different stroke, it's a case of saying, well, you know, whenever I'm making the catch, whatever the water is presented to me, be it rough water, you know, crystal clear, smooth, or whatever, I've got to find a catch. I've got to grab that water, I've got to hook that water and deliver force into the power phase all the way through. So, and it is sometimes quite enlightening if you're a stroke paddler. You don't spend much time down the back of the boat. Actually, it's quite an interesting prospect just to get an appreciation of it. I think I might have mentioned to you when I was younger and I used to do quite a bit of K2 paddling on long distance stuff like the Devizes Westminster race, which is 125 miles. You always think the person behind you is not paddling. Yeah, you just do. And I'm sure stroke paddlers, if they're not disciplined enough, not infrequently think other people aren't pushing hard enough because the boat's not moving as fast as they think it should be. And saying the wrong thing at the wrong time can be quite counterproductive. That's the equivalent of blurting that we were talking about earlier. So it's a bit of individual discipline, because then somebody then makes a comment and then you'll spend the next 5 strokes thinking about that rather than paddling the boat as hard as you can. You know, this is just human nature. Okay, I've talked enough. Rachel, what do you think about all that? Does that make sense? I just picked on you because you're having a drink. I hope that's not gin you're drinking.
No, I don't tend to drink much. No, that does make sense.
Okay. Would you add anything to it?
No.
Okay, fine. Anybody, any thoughts on that? James, hello, mate. What do you think? What's your take on how does it work with, say, crews you've paddled in terms of hierarchy, or, you know, is it the most senior people who have a say, or is it the junior person just shuts up and paddles, and or as a free for all, or how do you think it should work? How do we, if we're going to construct our ideal optimum crew? Yes, we're looking at the physical side of things. Yes, we're looking at the psychology, but how about in blending? What sort of stuff have you done in the past or might be relevant?
I think you're taking things to a different level than maybe where we've been before.
Right.
You know, in terms of, say, local races here, a lot of the time it's the steer. We have a plan and we have calls, and it's the steer that will shout the calls. There may be certain people on the boat will shout certain calls. I think when you have a drummer, and having paddled with Michelle as a drummer, yes, she has some choice words, you are right. And I think the drummer really can sense where things are at and a lot of the time when there is a drummer that's good, they can really set the tone when it needs to be set.
I mean, my instinct, if you like, is I don't really want to, even in a straight line race, I don't really want to load down the helm steerer with anything other than steering. Because those of you who are steerers and have steered races, I mean, especially in a 2K race or something, or anything can happen. So I mean, if that's possible, if they're able to do it and then people are comfortable with it, fine. But it's a lot, I when I'm coaching and steering, I come off the boat knackered. If I come off the boat more knackered than when I'm paddling, it's probably more trying to think about too much. So we try and sort of give people, a bit Thatcherite, doing less but doing it better, if you like, just to quote Maggie Thatcher. So that, I mean, that's my instinct on it. Obviously, there are very omni-competent people. But what was your take on that, Nikki, as a steerer? In fact, how many steerers have we got in the group?
I can steer, but I've done a race.
Right. Okay. So what's your thoughts, Nikki, when steering a race? I mean, what do you want to be thinking about? Or does the steerer do everything?
Well, we don't use drummers here, so it's generally left up to the sweep unless you do actually have somebody, a caller in the boat that can read the race. I know years ago I used to have a girl from Australia and she sat in seat 5 and she could call a race. I used to leave it up to her to call. But yeah, it takes certain people to really understand what's going on. But steering a race, I mean, you really just want to keep your head down and make sure you're not going to foul up and get that boat over the finish line. That's all you really want to do. Yeah. And here as well, I think there's a lot of people that can't really steer all that well. They don't know what they're doing. And bless them all for trying and all the rest of it. But you really, over here, you've got to, I guess anywhere. I mean, even when we raced in Malaysia, the lanes were literally 5 meters wide. I mean, and the course had a slight bend in it. So, and all I did once was I looked at the girl in front of me and she was out of time and I pulled her timing. And with that, I was like out the lane for a split second and we were penalized on that. Only because the Empire boat saw us, they couldn't get in behind us for the first 100 meters of the race, or first 70 meters. And they didn't see the boat next to us, was in our lane all the way down the start, and we were clashing paddles. So we got penalized for it because the Empire saw us, but they couldn't see them on the start. So honestly, it's just about keeping your head down and going. You don't really have time and energy and effort to be making calls.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, exactly that point. So, okay. Bit more about the one-to-one side of things. Which of your club have you done? I know we started it with the squad.
Tim, sorry, can I just interrupt you a little bit there? Because I'd actually like to give a little bit of input. So I think
good.
For me, as a drummer, I think it's all about a partnership with the steers. So, obviously on the smaller boats, everyone can normally hear what the drummer is saying, whatever. When it's, when it's the bigger boats, as I was saying, I can't necessarily see what's going on at the back of the boat, and therefore it is really important for the steers who are seeing what's going on to, try and correct technique and whatever. But it's all about, it's all about a partnership with everyone on the boat, but it's especially important, the partnership between the drummer and the steers, because you do need to be coordinated. You do need to be talking about the strategy of a race, like I did with your son in 2017. You're going to have a different strategy when it comes to the 200 because it's basically over and done with before you know it. The 500 is different to the 2000, whatever. So you coordinate your calls, like we even had hand signals. Yeah. Because we knew on the bigger boats that, we needed to, call the finish, but we wanted to communicate to each other. And we knew that, we weren't going to be able to verbally communicate. So we had a hand signal. where we would both say, right, it's now time to, you know, do the finish and let's go. So, you know, this all needs to be talked about prior to the race. You can't just stick a drummer on the front and have his steers on the back and change them, whatever. This all needs to be practiced beforehand. It's all done in training, or the calls need to be tested in training. So really you're executing the plan, and it's a plan that has been practiced in the race situation.
Yeah.
I had something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really important it's that when you get to race day, you're so well oiled as a team, you're so synchronized, the race plan has been put together, pulled apart, you know what your start is, you know what your finish is, you know what your chug is, that it's so automated. That's how I want to be in that stage where I know exactly what I'm doing, so that my head is in the boat, so that we've identified our optimum race, you know, and we know how to deliver it and execute it. But my head's in the boat. I don't want to see or hear anything else that's going on around me, because that takes my attention off my own performance. But I want to be able to trust that connection between the drummer and the steer, because I will respond to them. And I think where often crews fail is when they get distracted by what's going on outside, and then they come off the race plan, they start the finish too early or whatever, and that's then when, you know, things go wrong. So for me as a paddler, I want to know exactly what I'm doing, and I want to trust in the steer and the drummer to facilitate that for me, so that I know when to respond.
And we all know instinctively there's absolutely nothing you can do to influence, well, unless you ram them or something, or capsize, there's nothing you can do to influence the speed of another boat outside your own gunnels. And if you spend your time looking at them, then you're racing their race. You're actually just every glance, and it really is that critical. And yeah, we'll talk more of this as time goes on. But Heidi May's exactly right. You're going to have your perfect optimum race, but you will have a number of practiced tactics. Like, you know, we talked a little bit about 2,000 meter races, race turns, and ideally, you don't need to be able to do any hanging draws or rolling draws or this or that or tactical stuff to turn the boat, because ideally, you as a steerer should just be able to carve the boat round the turn. But as we all know, that's not the way it works in 2K races. So you've got an optimum, but then you practice for other contingencies as well. And in 2017, case in point, mentioned it before, Iran decided to capsize in front of us on a turn. So it happens. So you can't give up, can you? You just roll into another contingency that you've thought about, you practiced. Yeah, you can't practice every contingency, but if it's a likely what if, yeah, what we can do about it.
Yeah.
That's it really. And that's where so people know the various tactics, but like I say, there is some latitude and variation for the unusual, unexpected. Yeah, but you expect the unexpected to a sensible degree. Okay. So much for critical friends. Critical friend, that whole culture comes in with the one-to-one side of things that will roll out. So I'll be talking to Nikki over the next weeks, months about developing it, so you all know what you're working on, and it's going to benefit you as paddlers. It's going to benefit your home clubs as well. And I wouldn't be surprised as it rolls out, if you're not familiar with doing this, you'll probably end up doing it in your own teams as well. Because the other thing about it is, if people are coming along and working hard in your team, and you're actually giving them some individual coaching. Now, you can't do it one-to-one every day for everybody. I mean, for example, once you've got the system up and running, Nikki may only have the opportunity to talk to specifically 3 or 4 people in a crew, maybe more, maybe less. But, you know, you basically rotate through the whole crew. And it works, and it's added value, isn't it? People come along, they learn a bit more about paddling a boat, a bit more about paddling faster, and get some one-to-one coaching as well. And it's a great training experience, aside from anything else. So that's where we're going with that. So expect that. What do you think about the structure of the sessions we do?
The boat sessions?
Yeah.
It's good.
Good.
Yeah, really good.
What do you like about them? I know you maybe not the I know Heidi May, you like the burpees because you told me you did 50 on your 50th birthday.
Somebody else can answer this one.
Okay.
We have to trust that there's a method to your madness.
Yeah.
You know, so we just have to, in all honesty, get on with whatever you tell us to do, whatever Nikki tells us to do, and trust that you guys are pointing us in the right direction. So we shouldn't, you know, our opinion doesn't really matter. What matters is your game plan over the longer term, you know, to get us to where you want us to be.
But whilst that is true, then your opinion does matter.
No, it does matter, because it's also about understanding the reasons that the sessions are planned.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I mean, I like the structure to the sessions, but if it's 70%, 90%, understand that that's what you're trying to achieve, and really focus on what you're trying to deliver, so you understand the difference in power, your difference in your thresholds. So I think it is understanding what the sessions are about. I like the structure. I like the fact that there is a session, we have a plan, and Nikki's really explaining what we're trying to do with the stroke. So yeah, I think there's a lot to take from it personally.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fundamental thing, isn't it? Yeah, we haven't got. It's great having these sort of sessions, because we spend a bit of time just sort of take a step back and describe it all. And that's why, apart from liking to make videos, I've got there's a few hundred videos now, all about different aspects of stuff. So I'm not expecting everyone, unless you're totally crazy, to sit down and watch all of the videos or read all of the documents. But if you want to know about cadence training, or you want to know about race skeletons, or you want to know about this or that, or why we do stuff, or heart rate training, it's all on Teams. It's all there. So whilst I'm not expecting everyone to read it, if you want to know more about it, more about the underpinning rationale, it's there. You see what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. So, but yeah, what's really important to me is we could together with me, Nikki, Lee in Hong Kong, and the rest, Michelle, come up with all sorts of plans. But I don't actually want you to be saying, just tell me what to do, I'll do it. That's great, and I'm pretty confident it's going to work. But I need that, not affirmation. I don't need that so much, but I want to get you to buy into it. And the only way you're going to do that, and the way is by asking questions. And if, for example, as a coach, if I'm spouting on about CFCs or one-to-ones, and you don't know what I'm talking about, it doesn't make sense. Well, I've got to change the message. It's simple as that. And I'm certainly not into this coach knows best, the culture of the coach. Yes, I would hope I've got a certain degree of knowledge and understanding of the sport. I've got a reasonable measure of success out of it, but that's up to me. I know everything. Yeah. And if for example, I'm talking about something and Tom says to me, well, actually, to be honest with you, in my team, we've done this. And whilst we're not going to be sort of rushing about changing right, left and centre, if it's a good idea and we've got time to do it, then we're going to try stuff. Now, there's only a limited number of variations, and people sometimes confuse that with having no direction. We have a definite direction, but we also have the willingness to listen as well as we spout, or I spout. Nikki talks pearls of wisdom. I just spout, but it's the same thing. You know what I mean? So that's important. And like I say, if you don't understand anything we're talking about, ask the question, because that's the only stupid question, as always, is the one you don't ask. Yeah. Okay. Last little bit. Are you training too much?
Yeah, I'm not.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a relevant question, is it? I had a conversation with Michelle yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yesterday. The time goes so quickly. And I think there was some suggestion. I can't remember who mentioned it on a previous call, where you were talking about, somebody was talking about doing 3 GB sessions a week. I'm thinking, blimey, that's absolutely fantastic. But as well as working hard, we've got to achieve balance as well.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of what I would ideally like you to do, in terms of is really, as a minimum, the returns per week. But I do understand, I do appreciate that there's a variety of reasons why not everyone can do every return. So I'm not going to say you've got to do 70%, 80%. Do if there's a reason why you can't do something because it's your mum's birthday or whatever, or you're injured, then obviously we get that. But what falls out of it is there are, in any group of people, a number of people who are regularly doing the returns, who miss occasionally, but they do it regularly, and some people don't. and need to be encouraged. So really the focus is more to do with, because I would think there's some people here, most of you there, you all train anyway. So you'll probably train where we give you a regime to train for anyway, if you know what I mean. So that's less of a problem. What we're doing is just marshalling you and hopefully guiding you in what we consider to be the right direction. But also is how are we going to bring everybody else on board? So it's a bit of a double-edged question. Firstly, are you training too much? And let's put you on the spot. Debbie, are you training too much? Feeding the dog.
Yeah. Sorry, just eating my tea.
All right.
I'm mindful of training too much, and I try to make sure that I have one day that is definitely a rest day.
Right. So that's a yes.
Yeah.
Catherine, are you training too much? See, I'm still a perceptive coach. I could work out there.
I love being in the boat, and I would find time for getting on the boat every day of the week if I could. But I work full time, and I am struggling balancing work, boat, and going to the gym and getting the returns. I don't have easy access. And I know a couple of the others said, "Oh, come around to mine to use the rowing, their rowing machine." I'm struggling. I don't get the returns in, and I know it's partially because I prioritize my favorite thing, which is obviously paddling, and I paddle every session, like the 3 sessions of my own, early mornings, like getting up at 4 o'clock. Sometimes I'm going to bed at midnight because I'm planning work, like I've got tests and handling. So I'm struggling balancing a full-time job where I just at school all day.
Okay. Because you've been so honest and candid, let's just focus on it for a little bit, and other people will be exactly the same. So firstly, what do you think? I mean, obviously you know me from the screen, you maybe know me from the email, but I've never met you in person, so there's a certain amount of communication lost there. What do you think would happen if you didn't do your returns? Then will I go mad? What do you think? What sort of bloke would you? Do you think I'd go crazy? Just sort of sack you out the squad, or what do you think would happen?
No, it's not that. But if you then, like, if I'm not doing the returns and you're trying to judge who you're choosing for the team, then you're going to pick somebody who's getting the returns in. And I know I understand that.
Right. So I need to put it into context, and this is something that I mention time and time again, actually, and it needs to be mentioned. The returns. And also, combined with that, the observations and the discussions I have with Nikki and Michelle regarding people, how they're performing in the boat and that sort of stuff, all the feedback stuff and the one-to-one stuff, is evidence for inclusion. It's not evidence for exclusion, and it's not a play on words, right? What we need to do is strike a balance where we get some idea of your individual capability, some idea of your group capability, and how you're performing in the boat and that sort of stuff as well, and keeping you in good condition, because there's no point doing 10 sessions a week and then getting knackered or getting injured, because that's going to serve nobody's interest. So we need to strike a bit of balance there, and that's probably the most important thing.
I think also I think also why people are feeling knackered at the moment is because we're supposed to be racing, and the races are being postponed all the time, and the teams are training really hard because it's like, is this the one and only race that we're going to have for the rest of the season type of thing? So people are making sure they're getting into the boats, they're training. The clubs are expecting things from them as well, and all the rest of it. So I think with that, and obviously everything else that's going on in people's lives, there is a lot of pressure. And I'm also thinking that probably once we get to April and our local races will be done with, I don't know, but I think maybe some teams, people are going to be a little bit more relaxed, and you're not going to get the consistency with training and all that. So it might just be that as well. That's building up with people at the moment, because every weekend we're expecting to race and then it's postponed again. So this race that's coming up now, end of March, it's been postponed 4 times already.
Right. So there's lots of external stress that's going to be, and frustration and stuff as well. So for the next until that sort of that log jam starts to free up. So for the next weeks, month, whatever, is it a better idea, and this is an open question to anybody, is it a better idea to reduce the GB sessions to 1 week?
No.
The GB sessions have been really good for us to get together and work together.
Right.
And we're working on our technique, which can only benefit our individual teams anyway. And it is giving time on the boat. But it is hard because we're doing all the team sessions, all the GB sessions, the returns, personal training, weight training, whatever it might be. And everyone's got a busy life anyway with work. But the GB sessions have been really good, and they've only been beneficial to the other team, the teams that we're in anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I know Christine sat next to me here, but I think, you know, keeping it at 2, we're getting far more technical training whilst the sessions are incredibly intense. You know, so sometimes on Tuesdays we'll be doing double sessions, so we'll do 8K in the morning and then nearly 12K with Nikki in the evening. But we're getting so much technical training from Nikki, which is only making us better paddlers. So I think once we get through the races locally, as Nikki says, we'll have to make choices. And our choices will be, if you want to get on the Team GB, that has to be priority. So it will be better then to drop some of your club training and spend more time on the Team GB and manage your training during the week more efficiently.
Okay. I mean, yes.
I agree, totally agree with everything Paul and Chrissy have said. I don't want to drop the GB training. I personally, I know that I have to give myself a day off, and this week in particular, as you know, I've really struggled, and I haven't done anything today. So I think we all need to take ownership of that. What was coming to my mind as you were speaking, in terms of perhaps something has to shift, is whether there might be any benefit in doing returns every 2 weeks rather than every week.
Before Michelle mentioned this to me yesterday, and so it's all, you know, there's no issue which is beyond discussion, because we're moving more in towards 1-to-1. Whoever mentioned it, I don't think it's a good idea to do 3 sessions a week. I mean, 2 sessions a week is nice, and if you're enjoying doing that, then carry on doing because you're doing it because you enjoy doing it. So we can still, I don't need, well, I've got an idea about everyone's capability now over the last 6 or 8 weeks. I know where you are. I've got a snapshot, yeah, so to speak. I would prefer, this is my take on it, I would prefer to, if I tailed off anything, tailed off the returns for a month or so, maybe 2 months, whatever. I may come back to it. I probably will actually, and then build up on the 1-to-1 side of things. So add a little bit more technical into it. So you end up with all of the technique, all of the 1-to-1 stuff, and focus on that. And then spend time on that. And then when things get a little bit freer, hopefully, then we can then come in with another snapshot of maybe another month of assessment testing, weekly sort of things. We don't have to do it every week. I wanted to get a good idea where people are, and frankly, people's capacity and willingness to do the returns, which is not a problem for Dubai, because most of you are turning up and training twice a week. So sometimes you have problems with people's commitment to the task. But if everyone pretty much is happy about doing 2 sessions a week, then that's clearly where we need to put the focus. Interestingly, it's different in the 3 different locations. And it was probably idealistic for me to think it wouldn't be anything than that. But that's fine. And that's just, it's a worldwide thing, and that's the way we've got to deal with it. So does anybody here, when I say object, and yeah, speak up if you do. So everyone here is happy to carry on with 2 sessions a week? Yeah. I appreciate not everyone can make every session. How many of our number do we see very little of? Okay. I mean, I wasn't actually looking for volunteers, but so the question is, those people, I mean, Tom's here anyway, so I wouldn't really put Tom in this category, but what we're also looking for is those who are in the group who we don't see much of? How can we make it more accessible to people who aren't turning up as regular? Is there anything we can do?
I think we're a small number with that. I think Nikki's got a handle on the girls, I would say, and because the 5 guys are from the Diggers,
yeah,
you know, I've taken the lead on that, and I mean, Jimmy's not here tonight, so I talk about Jimmy because he's not here, but Jimmy's fairly new, but I've started to create that gel between us 5 boys, the Team GB, not, you know, outside of the Diggers. So obviously my objective with that is to get the 5 boys on the boat as regular as possible to see whether we can create a strong unit.
Yes.
And give us the best opportunity to blend wherever we could blend.
Yeah. And actually, because you're all from the same team as well, does it work? And I don't want to obviously disrupt anything Diggers are doing, but does it work if that same 5 can work roughly in the same location in the boat? Does it all normally work like that? Is that a possibility? I mean, a group of 5.
Absolutely. We're obviously training for races, but our captain Woody is more than happy to support whatever we need to do. So so once we've got past this race, if we want to sit in a certain place on the boat, he'll make that happen for us.
All right. So I mean, what I'm talking about, say for example, because you're both here today, for example, so if Paul and Tom regularly work together, then that's an ideal pairing to try and I would normally say to the coach is, you know, obviously you've got to do your boat configuration how you do to win your race or whatever, but if you can work them 2 together as often as possible, then that's going to be great for you. It's going to be great for us. And if it works, and if it doesn't work, then fine. Okay. How many of you are paddle both sides? At the same time. That's a kind. Right.
We all have preferred sides.
But no, you will do, and you'll biomechanically have a preferred side. Well, having said that, yes, I'd still say I've got a preferred side. I mean, if I do a time trial one side or the other, there'll be maybe 1.5 seconds between them. But there is a preferred side over certain distances. That's really helpful and useful because everyone's got a preferred side, but it's also worthwhile as we move on just to play people, not just in different parts of the boat, but on other sides as well. I mean, the team I coach in Cyprus, they do half the session on one side, half the session on the other. They do it for slightly different reasons, but it's just, you know, the more flexible and there's just more utility. And Michelle will probably tell you, our open squad at the Worlds in 2017, certainly the open team, I think probably 75% were capable paddlers on both sides. You know, it just makes the whole thing so.
If you make sure that we paddle on both sides.
I mean, just it sounds like you probably give it a go anyway. Do you normally do that on sessions anyway? Is that a fairly routine thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, Nikki makes sure that we paddle on both sides.
Really?
From a previous team that I was in, it was you have a seat on the boat, you paddle one side, you're on that seat, you know where you're getting, and you just do it. So I paddled on one side for years, but then it's like, it's good to be able to do both sides, and it's good that Nikki's training that.
And it's also
it's also good to avoid injury as well, so that you're not overstressing one side of your body. So.
And it's also good to know, just to understand the way the water performs and the way the boat, the different parts of the boat as well. So, like I say, if you're a regular stroke paddler, then just I'm sure Nikki will swap you around and stick you in the back seat every now and again, just to understand and realise that we are actually part of a team, and you're not just there. You're the rest of the crew is not there just to propel the stroke pair. I'm not saying that's your attitude, but sometimes you come across that, and I've had people in the past who said, I paddle left side number 2, so we have to be make sure you're the best. If that's your attitude, then make sure you're the best left side number 2 in the country. But that's I don't think we've got that sort of approach. Okay. So you're pretty much happy with the structure. Then, like I say, even then when we're doing sprinting sessions, there'll be a lot of underpinning technical and tempo training, because the basis of all good sprinting is a firm foundation anyway, as you know. that's really all I've got to talk about. In fact, we're coming up on an hour anyway. I mentioned tapas. If I was just putting a structure together, then most of the sessions I would plan. In fact, the way it's going to probably pan out with you as well, is all your sessions will be tapas sessions, pretty much. And what I mean by tapas is there'll be a technical aspect to it. There'll be an aerobic aspect to it. There'll be what I call a proactive paddling. That could be training on turns, various tactics, pulse, all sorts of things we do. There'll be an anaerobic aspect to it, and it will always be stylish. And that's it. And that's the basic fundamentals of a dragon boat session or a race dragon boat session. So there will be some occasions where you're, for example, if we've identified an issue, we're just focusing on 200-meter training or whatever, but in the main, it will be a rounded, holistic approach. Okay. And please do expect another technical video coming out, because I've got probably 10 or 12 drills that I regularly use, but it's a bit like a coaching toolbox. There's some of the tools in your toolbox are multi-tools, so things like the swan drill or the skim drill, I've got different uses for different things. Some are single use, and sometimes you have to, if you take an engineering approach, you have to create a tool for a particular job. So expect a bit of variation on that as well. But like I say, if there's stuff you don't understand, ask the question. And if I can't answer it, then Nikki will be able to.
We hope.
That will be fine. Okay, that's pretty much 4:29 here. So that's going to be 8:29 there. Is that 8:29? Yeah. So that's all I've got to say. Next week, I want to talk a bit about springing off the back. So the back end of the stroke. But I want to do the video first. And I'm going to introduce a drill called light and heavy, also known as light and bitter. You have to be a certain age to understand that. Paul, I'm sure, he understands light and bitter.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I'll explain that later on. It's working. Basically, we talk about once you've got a good catch, you've got to work in all of the stroke rather than just slipping off the back. But more about that later on. But that's all from me for now. Just to round up, coming up on the hour, Heidi May, because you always end up top left. Why is that? Perhaps you log on first and it loads you up first. You don't automatically go to that place, do you? No, you don't choose that place.
No.
Okay, so Heidi May, any concluding comments from you? Because I've talked enough.
No, no, really useful and great that we're finishing on time.
Always good. Good punctual. Paul, Chrissy?
All good. No, everything's good.
Rachel, no cat today?
No, I've let all the cats outside. They're causing havoc in the corridors.
How many are there?
3.
Oh, right, that's okay. 300. Brilliant.
You've got 6.
Oh, blimey.
James, any other points? Rachel, happy? Happy?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, James.
No, all good. Sorry for being late.
No worries. I'm sure Nikki will give you burpees.
I got lost.
Oh, that joke, I joke. Tom.
Yeah, I'm happy. All good. Cheers, Tim.
Nikki, thanks for your comments earlier. Any points?
All good with me.
Great. Kathleen?
All good.
Debbie? Now, I've now got a screen that says 410813. I've got no idea who that is. Who might you be?
Michelle.
Oh,
It's
they'll-
Michelle.
Michelle.
Oh, is it me? So I just want to say Jenny sent her apologies for not being able to make it, and it's Jo Owens. It was a significant birthday for her this week, so she is somewhere very nice and exotic. So so she's not on the call this week, and she might not do the return, so she wanted me to let you know.
Oh, so she can get 50 burpees then.
Absolutely. Birthday.
A burpee for every birthday, yeah?
Yeah.
I was going to politely say, well, how significant is significant? But that's quite okay. Great. Yeah, I was there once. Anyway. Okay, brilliant. And Jeremy, who's on mute at the moment.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, sorry, I haven't meetings. I will do. Nothing further to comment at this moment, but just to say that I'm finding the sessions with Team GB technically really useful. I'm fairly new to paddling, dragon boating anyway, and learning a lot. So yeah, great value in those sessions for me.
Okay, my friend, you're very welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, that's all from me. Finish on time. First time for everything, really. Okay, thank you very much. See you later. Brilliant.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Cheers.
Hey.